Hi, today we're going to be talking about sleeping in the same bed together. There's a lot of couples that don't do that. So we're going to get into this conversation. Stay tuned.
You don't want to miss it. You're listening to Marriage Mania, where we are audacious, sagacious, and tenacious for the Lord to uphold godly marriages and to raise fervent children who are countercultural and stand for biblical truth.
Hi, we're so excited to have you here today. I'm Tania.
And I'm Michael.
And today we're going to be talking about sleeping in the same bed together. It seems common sense, but there's a lot of couples that do not do that. So we're going to talk about this important topic. But before we do, please subscribe here. It really helps us to get out there. We have a podcast that goes out every Tuesday, and we talk about marriage and family. So we are so thrilled to be able to reach as many families as possible. So we're going to get into this topic. Michael, let's talk about sleeping in the same bed together as a married couple.
Yes, we wanted to talk about the importance of sleeping in the same bed with your spouse and doing so without any other living being in the bed with you. Mm-hmm. The bed is central to marriage and marriage oneness. It's the center point of marriage. The Song of Solomon celebrates marital love, and it places its bedroom scene at the center of the song in chapter 4 in order to showcase the bedroom as the centerpiece of the song and also as the centerpiece of marriage. Mm-hmm. The Song of Solomon has what they call a chiastic structure, which is common in the Bible, an A-B-C-B-A structure. The center of the chiastic structure is the focal point of the writing. The center focal point of the Song of Solomon is the bedroom scene. In addition, Hebrews 13:4 says that marriage should be honored by all and the marriage bed kept pure. Mm-hmm. Hebrews speaks very succinctly here and speaks about marriage and the marriage bed in the same sentence. The marriage bed and everything that happens in the marriage bed is central to marriage and should be guarded, kept pure. So much marriage oneness is fostered in the bed. Sex, of course, happens in the bed, which is central to marriage oneness, but also other forms of affection, cuddling, pillow talk, prayer, security, bonding. Marital oneness is central to the health of your marriage. Mm-hmm. Couples become one in a profound spiritual way at the marriage ceremony, but the physical act of oneness is a process where we constantly, daily do things that bring us together and bond us together as a couple so that we are operating as one and not leading separate lives and growing apart. The more we do together as a couple, the more oneness and bonding there will be. The more we do apart, the more we'll lead separate lives and grow apart in separate directions. We don't have to do absolutely everything together, and it's healthy to do some things apart at times and have our own space with some things, but we want to overwhelm our marriage with things that we do together that bring bonding and oneness, such things as pursuing God together, praying together, going to church together, reading the Bible together, living in the same house, not having jobs that cause us to live in separate locations, merging finances, not having separate accounts, having plenty of sexual and non-sexual affection, creating children together, raising children together with unity, eating meals together, having fun together, engaging in meaningful conversation with eye-to-eye conversation without technology or other distractions in the way. These are powerful bonding occasions that we need to have plenty of in our marriage. They create marital oneness. They maintain marital oneness, and they help stir up marital oneness and marital health in a marriage that is going through a cold season. Mm-hmm. Central to this is the bed. Yet so many couples do not put the bed as a priority, as central to the marriage, and are missing out on a powerful bonding aspect of marriage. There are couples that go to bed at different times or go to bed in different bedrooms. Oftentimes, this is because there's an issue in the marriage, and not sleeping in the same bed is a symptom of these issues. And we encourage you to seek help from your pastor and or a good Christian counselor if this is the case. Don't let these issues fester. Song of Solomon 2:15 says that it's the little foxes that spoil the vineyard. The little problems that simmer and fester, that interfere with marital intimacy, marital oneness. And then these little problems grow like a cancer and metastasize to where they're really hard to deal with after that. Dealing with the problems when they're small, don't wait until they become big. Deal with even small problems that interfere with marital intimacy, the closeness and oneness in the marriage. A central point to marital oneness, to marital intimacy, marital closeness is sleeping in the same bed. What are some things that can interfere with even healthy marriages not sleeping in the same bed?
So I think generally a lot of couples may feel uncomfortable when someone is snoring in the bed and it's so loud. It's super loud that it's just disturbing the other person's sleep. And so now you're getting this habit of like, okay, I'll just go sleep in the other room so that you can get rest. And so now you have two people that are sleeping in two different rooms. Then you've got the different times going to bed. Somebody goes to bed at midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning, and then you've got someone that goes to bed at 9 o'clock at night. And so that's a whole big thing because there's a lot of gray area that can happen, even though if it's like good intentions, you're still not going to bed at the same time. So there's not really good visibility or accountability as to what you're doing till 1 o'clock in the morning, even though you might just be watching a movie or whatever it is. But now you are separate, or it could be different jobs. I know for us, you were working night shifts and I was working day shifts. And so that made it really difficult because it was kind of like you're coming in and I'm getting up. And so there's disturbance there of not actually going to sleep at the same time.
Yes, and those are legitimate issues. Like you're talking about, one goes to bed late, the other wants to go to bed early, or they need to because of work. Maybe one has to get up really early in the morning and needs a loud alarm to get up that goes off 20 times before getting up. Maybe someone snores really loud or moves a
Mm-hmm.
lot and wakes up the other person. The bed is so important, so central to marital oneness, that we would encourage you to work hard to figure out a way to overcome any obstacles like these. Seek hard for a resolution. If you need to go to sleep at different times, consider going to bed at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
engaging in prayer, pillow
Yep.
talk, and affectionate cuddling and whatnot. And then when one person has turned to physically go to sleep, the other can get back up and come back to bed when they need to go to sleep. As far as moving around a lot, maybe get a really big bed with a mattress that is designed to isolate the feelings of movement without moving the rest of the mattress. Yeah, I don't know, just kind of brainstorming here.
Right.
Seek medical assistance for snoring. Don't just give up and quickly go to uh, the remedy of just let's just sleep in separate rooms and a separate bed if we can just figure out a
Yeah.
way to solve these problems. And as
Mm-hmm.
as far as jobs, maybe it's important enough that we figure out a way to get ourselves on the same schedule. I
Yeah,
know
I
I
know we
changed to
did.
day shift.
Yeah.
That was really important. It wasn't a big deal when I was single, but now that I'm married and I had the opportunity to just switch to a permanent day shift, that was the solution.
Mm-hmm.
So it's those kind of things. When we set it as a priority, we can figure out a way to make it happen.
And I like what you said about just kind of coordinating going to bed at the same time because even if you go to bed at like midnight and the other person goes to bed at 9, you can still readjust and just lay there. And I think your body and your biorhythms will end up aligning to where you're getting tired at 9. I know I was going to bed years ago. I think it was like midnight because I was doing all these projects. And so it was hard for me to be sleepy at 9 o'clock. But then I made it a point to start switching my sleeping patterns. And so by 8 o'clock, we're both so exhausted. We're like, okay, it's time for bed. And so we tend to go to bed around the same time.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times we can align our biorhythms to kind
Mm-hmm.
of be in sync. That's part of
Yeah.
marriage oneness, as
Yeah.
as we're merging life together and operating as one. And part of
Mm-hmm.
that can be merging our bedtime schedules together and getting on the same biorhythm. Now, there are those that very distinctly, almost I guess biochemically, may have different. I just am naturally a morning person, but somebody
Mm-hmm.
else may just be naturally a night person, and there is no kind of bringing those together.
Mm-hmm.
In which case, maybe it's one of those things where again we go to bed at the same time
Right.
in order to have that bonding experience. And if the late owl has to get up and go back to doing things at night and then come back to actually sleep, maybe that's a possible
Yeah,
remedy.
but I think that kind of opens the door to other things. It's like just stay in bed and just if you have to maybe like listen to a book or something with your earbuds or something until you fall asleep.
Right.
that's
Yeah. If
that's
you could do
another.
something in bed, if it
Because
doesn't
I know,
disturb the
like,
other
for
person.
us, we can't turn any lights on, and if I'm not sleepy, I just end up sitting there and I fall asleep eventually.
Right. I mean, it's just important enough to try to figure out
Right.
a way to make it
That's the
happen
whole
and
point.
not just, I mean, again, marriage oneness has to do with doing a lot of things together, not everything, but especially the main things. And this is one of the main things that we really need to try to do together. What
Hmm.
about other living beings sleeping in the bed with you, like pets or kids?
Yeah. So we have two pets, and I refuse to have them in the bed, just because it's very
I would be in
disturbing.
agreement with that, by the way.
And I'm no discredit to anybody that likes to have their pets in the bed, but for me, it just seems like it's distracting, and depending on when they want to eat and stuff, they already let us know by banging on the door every day. But to have them in the bed would just be too much, and too it's just too crowded. And then children, I know for us, we made it a point to do sleep training. And so we taught our daughter to go to bed in her own room. By the time she was, I think, 8 months, she was already sleeping in her own room. She never really slept in our bed unless, like, we had a power outage and she was scared, or maybe she was really sick or something. We wanted to have her close by, but it's a rare situation that she sleeps with us. And so we just made it a point.
Maybe once or twice, I think that's happened.
I think maybe, yeah, out of the 8 years, I think maybe two or three times.
Very,
Um,
very special, unique situation when that
yeah,
would.
we've made it a strong point that that is not something that we want in the bed. Not that we don't want her with us, but it's just, this is our time. This is our time to have a conversation. This is our time to go to sleep. This is our time. And children can disrupt that sleeping pattern, uh, because they should learn to be independent. I think there's a lot of studies around children who sleep in their own beds, have more of an independent type of um, responsibility on them. Like they're more or maybe they're more responsible in that way.
It's kind of the first step to
Yeah.
independence is that sleep
Yeah.
training and dealing with the issues that are involved with sleep and overcoming any fears and discomfort that they may have
Hmm.
is just kind of that first initial training towards independence.
Yeah.
It's that first step.
And I can understand for, like, mothers who nurse, and because I nursed our daughter till she was almost 1 years old. Um, and she was in our room most of the time, but in her own crib, and then transitioned into her room. And yes, it's an inconvenience to get up and go into the other room, but it's setting a boundary, to have, this is our room. This is your parents' room. This is where we sleep. This is our time together. And yeah, that's kind of what we've done.
I know here's one thing to kind of think about and consider. The huge oneness aspect of sleeping in the same bed is negated by other living things in there with you. So don't let them be in there with you. You can train kids to sleep in their own bed. If you let them sleep in your bed, you will develop that habit, and it's hard to get them out. Don't ever start. If your child is scared, lay in their bed with them. That's what we do. Lay in their bed with them for a moment until they get to sleep.
Sometimes you fall asleep.
Yeah, sometimes I end up falling asleep and wake up much later and like, what just happened here? but but then I get back up and go back to my own bed. So they're never developing that. You get the security there when they're scared
Hmm.
and but at the same time they're not developing the habit of sleeping in our bed. I just
Right.
lay in there with her until she falls asleep, and then that event is over and I can go back to my bed and she's perfectly fine sleeping in hers.
Right.
If you're nursing, that's what you were talking about, get up and go to your baby to nurse. Don't have your baby in the bed with you to nurse. It's dangerous, right, to
Yeah.
have the
I
baby in the
think
bed with you, and that
I
they
think, like,
counsel against it.
infants, like really small infants
Once they
are.
get older they might be less risk, but there's that risk of
Yeah.
rolling over and other things,
Falling off the bed in the
things in
middle
that.
of the night. Yeah, this is too much.
um so there's that risk to consider, but but we're not trying to be alarmist here. The main thing is the fact that you've got another living thing in there that's interfering with the strong bonding aspects that come from being in the bed with no one else in there when you to be able to bond with your spouse. Pets the same way. They also develop the habit of sleeping with you or separately, depending on what habit you instill. Instill a habit that protects the marital bed for marital oneness without anything getting in the middle of that.
And it's hilarious because their pets are like, okay, since you're not going to have me in the bed, we'll go, we'll go to our daughter's bed, like our daughter.
Yeah.
And so the pets end up sleeping in her room, which is kind of funny, but they've instilled the habit of like, okay, since we're not going to be with y'all, we're going to go over there and be with her. So I just think that's kind of funny.
Yes, and they hear a stirring in the morning when it's time to wake up, and they go, "Oh, it's that time in the morning," and they got an internal clock or something. Maybe they see the light coming up outside. I don't know. They know exactly when to start pounding on the door and say, "Hey, y'all need to get up now and give us some food." And it's
a lot going on.
Yes, it's like
So
there ain't no sleeping in,
so
even if we wanted to.
Right, there's no need. There's just no answer for having, like, we don't need to have pets in the bed. That's just it. No pets.
Yes. So the overall point, though, is we encourage you to sleep in the same bed. It's central to marriage oneness. If you have issues in your marriage that's preventing you from sleeping in the same bed, we encourage you to seek help for those issues and be working on those issues. If you have different sleeping problems, we encourage you to work on these problems and figure out a way to minimize them. If you have kids or pets in a bed, we encourage you to overcome these. Kick out the kids and pets. Here's the thing, though. If you think your child is going to rebel from this, they've developed a strong habit. There may be an issue of getting them out. They may throw a fit. Here's a technique I've seen that seems pretty effective. Give them a warning. Don't just tell them at the last second, and tell them in the morning that, hey, tonight we're going to sleep in your own bed. Make it exciting, though. This is an awesome day. You're such a big girl or big boy. You've grown up. It's time to sleep in your own bed. Throw a party. Make just an exciting event. Talk it up all day. And when it's time for bed, have an awesome bedtime routine with story time and praying together and fun. Then kiss them goodnight. Sometimes that's all that's needed, depending on your child. But sometimes they'll immediately get up and start following you to the bed like they always do, and gently remind them, no, that this is the awesome night that we've been gearing up for, to sleep in your own bed, and lean them back into their own bed. If they get up again, simply pick them up and put them in their bed. Every time they get up, simply pick them up and put them back. Don't argue with them or even say a word at that point. Just keep over and over again as long as it takes. At some point, they will stop getting up if you don't give up. The first night might be horrible, where it seems like you are putting them back in bed over and over again for a good part of the night. The second night will be much better if you've stuck with the first night. They will stop getting up much sooner, and they'll go to sleep a lot sooner. The next night will be even better, and will probably be completely fine by the third night without them getting up at all, depending on your child. That usually is even for the roughest ones. Usually by the third night, you're pretty good. But the point is, don't treat sleeping in the same bed alone with your spouse as a small deal. It is a big deal. It contributes a lot to marital oneness, and we should guard it, as we learn in Hebrews and the Song of Solomon. Guard the bed and make it pure, and it's a place where there's just a lot of marital bonding going on, by going to bed at the same time, having that time. Don't just go to sleep, but right away have that time for prayer and talking and cuddling and that closeness.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I think everything that you were saying, and I didn't mean to cut you off, but I think that's exactly what we need to do, is keep the marriage bed holy and keep it from being disrupted from all the things that are going on in life, like the pets, the children, and things like that, so that you have this time together so that you can focus on one another. Sometimes you just need that time to just relax, just the two of you, and you might fall asleep right away, and that's okay. But it's that moment of not having disruptions. And I know for us, our daughter does knock on the door, And when she needs anything, because she knows that that's our time, like our bedroom is our time. And so I think that's just something that we've done over the years. And we've really tried our hardest to go to bed at the same time, which is really important, like you were mentioning. So I know that this is something probably kind of like, okay, are we really talking about going to sleep at the same time? Yes, we are. Because again, like we talked about at the beginning of the podcast, that many couples don't do that. And there's a lot of disruptions that happen.
Right. And we get it. There's a lot going on in marriage and family. There's just a lot of chaos and a lot of things to deal with, a lot of things to juggle.
Mm-hmm.
And this is how marital oneness gets away from us.
Mm-hmm.
It's a process, and it's a process that we have to be intentional about it daily. If not, it's these other things in life that will interfere with it and become those little foxes that Solomon talked about,
Yeah.
that interfere with the vineyard, that interfere with the marriage, unless we guard it. We put up fences around the vineyard, around that marital intimacy, that marital oneness, that protects it, that protects those things that brings strength to the marriage, that brings health to the marriage, because it helps produce oneness. And the marriage bed is one of those main factors. And there's a lot going on at night, and that can interfere with that unless we're intentional about guarding it and making it happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, this was a great conversation about sleeping at the same time and keeping that area of your room and keeping your bedroom just a place that's for you and your spouse. And so I think that was the key here, and the importance around it. And so we're just so happy that we were able to share that. And if it can help a marriage, that's struggling, that's what we want to do. We want hearts to be turned to Jesus, and we want people to really try to make that oneness an important part of their marriage. So please subscribe if you haven't. Give us a thumbs up and join us every Tuesday as we talk about marriage and family. Until next time.
God bless.